My mother collapsed when she saw me through the glass doors of my clinic. Not from pride, from guilt. My father's face went white when he read the nameplate on my desk. My brother couldn't even look at me. They'd driven 3 hours to ask for money. The same money they'd stolen from me 5 years ago when they told me I'd never amount to anything. Before I tell you what happened in that waiting room, I need you to understand something. This isn't just a revenge story. This is about what happens when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones you need protection from. My name is Jade Morrison. I'm 24 years old, and I own the largest emergency veterinary clinic in Colorado. I didn't inherit it. I didn't marry into it. I built it from absolutely nothing after my father looked me in the eye and said, "Veterinary school? That's a $250,000 mistake. Your brother needs that money for something real." If you've ever been the one your family bet against, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my story, it might be yours too. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this ends. Trust me, you won't see it coming. Let me take you back to February 2020, 3 weeks before the world shut down and my family tried to shut me down with it. I grew up in a craftsman-style house on Mapleton Avenue in Boulder, Colorado. My father, Robert Morrison, was a pharmaceutical sales rep who drove a company Lexus and wore a Rolex he couldn't actually afford. My mother, Karen, was a substitute teacher who'd given up her credential to raise kids and never got it back. We looked perfect from the outside. White picket fence, golden retriever, Christmas lights that my father paid a company to hang because appearances mattered more than authenticity in the Morrison household. From the inside, we operated like a kingdom where only one prince mattered, and it wasn't me. My brother Ryan was 26, 3 years older, and the undisputed golden child. Every report card was celebrated. Every mediocre achievement was framed. Every failure was explained away as bad timing or bad teachers or bad luck, never bad choices. He got a new laptop every year. He got a car at 16, fully paid. He got his college tuition covered in full while I got lectures about fiscal responsibility. I got the message early: boys are investments. Girls are expenses. I was good with animals. Not just good, gifted. Our golden retriever, Sunny, had hip dysplasia that 3 vets said required surgery. I researched canine physical therapy, created a home exercise program, adjusted her diet, and monitored her mobility for 4 months. She never needed the surgery. I was 14. My biology teacher, Mr. Patterson, pulled me aside after I turned in a research paper on veterinary oncology. He said, "Jade, I've been teaching for 22 years. You have the kind of analytical mind that veterinary schools fight over." I brought home information about Colorado State's veterinary medicine program, one of the top 3 in the country. My father glanced at the brochure for maybe 5 seconds, set it on the counter next to his coffee, and said, 8 years of school to work with dogs? That's not realistic, Jade. You should think about dental hygiene. Good benefits, decent pay, and you're done in 2 years. He never mentioned it again. But the college fund, that was supposed to be different. My grandfather on my mother's side, Dr. Thomas Chen, had been a research veterinarian who'd developed 3 patents for antibiotics used in large animal medicine. When he died, he split his estate evenly, $215,000 for Ryan, $215,000 for me, placed in custodial education accounts the year we were each born. Those accounts had grown for 18 years with contributions and compound interest. My father announced it at Thanksgiving when I was 16. He stood at the head of the table like he was running a board meeting and said, "Both of my kids have their futures secured. $215,000 each. That's medical school, law school, whatever they want. Nobody touches it until they're ready. Everyone clapped. Uncle David, Aunt Sarah, the cousins. I remember looking around that dining room afterward. Every single photo on the walls was Ryan. His hockey trophies. His honor roll certificates. His prom photo. His graduation portrait. I had exactly 2 pictures in that house. One was a family photo from 2012 where my face was half cut off by the frame. The other was my 8th grade school photo, tucked behind a plant on a shelf in the hallway where nobody would see it unless they were looking for the thermostat. I remember thinking then, at least the money is equal. At least that's fair. I was wrong. If there was one person who made me feel like I existed, it was my grandfather. Dr. Chen had worked for 40 years in veterinary research before Parkinson's took his hands and then his voice. But before that, he used to take me to his old lab at CSU, let me look through the microscopes, showed me slides of bacteria cultures and explained how antibiotics worked at the cellular level. Your brain, Jade, he used to say, tapping my forehead gently with one shaking finger, that's your inheritance. Everything else is just paper. He died the winter I turned 17. Parkinson's-related complications, fast and brutal. My father didn't go to the funeral. Said he had a work commitment, which in Robert Morrison language meant my mother's father wasn't worth taking a personal day. My mother stood at the grave alone, and I stood next to her. Ryan didn't come either. He was at a ski trip in Aspen with his fraternity. 2 weeks before Grandpa died, he pulled me close in his hospital bed. His voice was barely a whisper, but his grip on my wrist was surprisingly strong. I put something aside for you, Jade. Not just money. Something more important. A lawyer named Mitchell Torres will contact you when you turn 18. Nobody else knows. Keep it that way. I thought he meant jewelry, or maybe research notes he wanted me to have. I was 17. I didn't understand what patents were worth. After the funeral, I found a locked wooden box he'd left for me. Inside was his old stethoscope, the one he'd used in his early years as a large animal vet, and a business card. Mitchell Torres, attorney at law, Fort Collins, Colorado. I put that card in my wallet behind my driver's license and didn't think about it again. Not for 8 months. Ryan came home from CU Boulder in January of my senior year like a prophet returning from the mountain, except his gospel was crypto and his deity was Elon Musk. He'd been at Boulder for 3 years. His GPA was hovering somewhere around 2.1, which I only knew because I'd overheard him arguing with someone from the registrar's office about academic probation. But to hear him tell it at dinner, he was building networks and positioned for the future. My father ate it up like communion. One Sunday morning in late February, Ryan showed up wearing a suit I'd never seen before. Men's Warehouse, tag still attached to the inside sleeve. He had a spiral-bound document, maybe 12 pages, printed on regular copy paper with a clear plastic cover that said Investment Opportunity, Morrison Capital Ventures. I was loading the dishwasher when he sat down across from Dad at the kitchen table and started his pitch. He needed seed capital for a cryptocurrency trading venture. He'd been studying the markets, he said, and he had a system. All he needed was initial funding to prove the model, and then he'd scale. Total investment needed, $215,000. I turned off the faucet. Dad, Ryan said, leaning back with his ankle crossed over his knee, let's be honest. You've got 2 education funds sitting there. I need one. And Jade, he glanced at me like I was part of the furniture, what's she gonna do, become a vet? That's 8 years of school to make $60,000 a year. That's not an investment. That's a money pit. He said it so casually. Like my dream was a hobby. Like I wasn't standing 12 feet away with soap suds dripping down my forearms. My father, the man who'd stood at Thanksgiving and promised both kids had their future secured, looked at Ryan's plastic-covered business plan, nodded slowly, and said, "You might be onto something." He didn't look at me. Not once. They waited 9 days to tell me. I suspect that had more to do with paperwork than courtesy. It was a Sunday morning. The kitchen smelled like burnt bacon and coffee, and the morning light came through the window in that flat, honest way that makes everything look too real. My father sat at the head of the table. Ryan sat next to him, drinking coffee from one of those oversized ceramic mugs that cost more than my monthly allowance. My mother stood by the sink, gripping the counter edge with both hands, staring at the tile grout like it held the secrets of the universe. "Sit down, Jade," my father said. I sat. "I've made a decision about the education accounts," he began, not bothering with small talk. Robert Morrison never wasted time on comfort. Ryan needs capital for a legitimate business opportunity. I'm consolidating both funds, all $215,000, under his name. The room tilted slightly. Not because I was surprised, but because hearing it out loud made it real. "Your brother has real potential," Dad continued, straightening his napkin like he was sealing a contract. "You should look into veterinary nursing instead. Maybe grooming. There's good money in dog grooming, and it's only a 6-month certificate. Much more practical. Dog grooming. 8 years of dreaming about veterinary medicine, about surgery, about oncology research, and he was suggesting I learn to trim poodles." I looked at my mother. Karen Morrison was still facing the sink, knuckles white, shoulders curved inward like she was trying to disappear into the cabinets. "Mom." "Nothing." Not a word. Not a glance. Just the sound of the refrigerator humming and Ryan slurping his coffee like this was any other Sunday. "Your mother agrees," my father said. "This is what's best for the family." Something between my mother and me shattered right there on that kitchen tile. No sound. No ceremony. Just the death of whatever trust had been left. I looked at my father. I looked at Ryan. And I said one word. "Okay." Then I stood up, walked upstairs to my room, and closed the door. That one word cost me $215,000. But what I did in the next 72 hours would be worth far more. I didn't leave that night. That's what people expect, the dramatic exit, the slammed door, the screeching tires. That's not what happened. What happened was strategy. I had 2 months until graduation. If I left before that, I'd lose my diploma, and without it, I wouldn't qualify for community college admission. So I stayed. I played the part. I smiled when I needed to. I kept my mouth shut. But I also opened my laptop and made a list. Step 1, find work. Any work. I applied to every coffee shop, retail store, and dog boarding facility within 10 miles. I had 3 job offers within a week. I took all 3, planning to work 1 full-time, 2 part-time. Step 2, find housing. I searched Craigslist for room rentals in Fort Collins near CSU's campus. Found one for $650 a month in a 3-bedroom house with 2 other renters. Step 3, survive until I could call Mitchell Torres. I graduated on a Wednesday in May. Cap and gown. Diploma in hand. My family wasn't there, they were at some end-of-semester thing for Ryan at Boulder, a goodbye party for seniors. Ryan didn't even graduate that semester, but they didn't know that yet. I walked out of the gymnasium, got into my car, a 2004 Honda Civic with 190,000 miles that I'd bought myself working at a doggy daycare, and I drove to Fort Collins. I'd already packed one duffel bag, my laptop, Grandpa's wooden box with the stethoscope and the business card, and $680 in a savings account. I left a note on the kitchen table, the same table where my father had signed away my future. I'm leaving. Don't look for me. You already made your choice. I moved into the house on Laurel Street that same day. 3 bedrooms, shared bathroom, 2 roommates I didn't know. One was a nursing student named Chloe who worked nights. The other was a guy named Marcus who was getting his MBA and was never home. Nobody asked why I was there. Nobody asked about my family. I liked that. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 jobs: barista at a coffee shop near campus, doggy daycare assistant on weekends, and overnight kennel attendant at a 24-hour emergency vet clinic. I was working 65 hours a week and sleeping maybe 4. But I was free. My father called 6 days after I left. I didn't answer. His voicemail was 4 sentences of pure Robert Morrison. You're being childish, Jade. This is exactly the kind of impulsive behavior that proves my point. Come home, and we'll discuss practical options. Stop embarrassing this family. He called 4 more times that month. Each message shorter. Each one angrier. My mother called once, late at night, whispering because Dad was in the next room. Jade, sweetheart, please come home. Your father just wants what's best. We can figure something out. Figure what out, Mom? He stole my future. Silence. Then, quietly, your father knows best, honey. I hung up. That was the moment I understood, my mother would never choose me. Not because she didn't love me. Because she'd spent 28 years letting Robert Morrison make every decision, and she didn't remember how to choose anything anymore. I deleted home from my contacts that night. Meanwhile, Ryan posted on Instagram. A penthouse rooftop in Denver. Bottle service. Caption, Crypto Life. Funded and ready. Thanks, fam. I closed the app and went back to studying. 3 months in, I was running on fumes, coffee, and pure spite. I was taking online courses through Front Range Community College, working 3 jobs, and sleeping on an air mattress because I couldn't afford a real bed. I was going through my bag one night looking for a pen when I found the wooden box. Grandpa's stethoscope, worn and soft. And underneath, the business card. Mitchell Torres, attorney at law. I'd been 18 for 4 months. I'd never called. I called the next morning. Mitchell answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was calm, measured, the kind of voice you develop after decades of delivering news that changes lives. He said he'd been trying to reach me. He'd sent 3 letters to the Boulder house. I never got them. I see, he said after a long pause. We both knew what that meant. Robert had intercepted them. Mitchell asked me to come to his office in Fort Collins. I took a bus. The office was small, just him and a paralegal, in a brick building that smelled like old books and furniture polish. He sat me down and explained what my grandfather had done. Dr. Chen had set up 2 things before he died. First, a trust funded with $15,000 from his personal savings, designated solely for me, to be released when I turned 18 and contacted the trustee. Second, and this was the part that changed everything, he'd signed over ownership of 2 veterinary antibiotic patents to me. Not to my father. Not to Ryan. To me, Victoria Jade Morrison, in a legal document executed 4 years before his death. Your grandfather knew these patents generate royalties, Mitchell explained. About $4,000 per quarter from licensing agreements with 3 pharmaceutical companies. He wanted you to have them because he said you were the only one who understood their value. He slid 2 checks across the desk. One for $15,000 from the trust. One for $11,800, back royalties that had been accumulating for the 2 years since Grandpa died. $26,800 total. I held those checks and cried for the first time since I'd left Boulder. Not because of the money. Because someone had believed in me. Someone had sat down with a lawyer and said, "This is for Jade, and nobody else gets to touch it." But Mitchell wasn't done. "There's something else you should know," he said, opening another folder. "Your UTMA account, the $215,000 education fund." I requested the transaction records. "As the beneficiary, you're entitled to them." He turned the folder toward me. Inside was an email chain. February 24, 2020. From Robert J. Morrison to First National Bank, requesting immediate withdrawal and transfer of custodial funds from my account to a new account in Ryan Morrison's name. But there was more. A second email, dated 1 week earlier. Ryan to Robert, "Dad, I need this now. The crypto window closes end of month. If you don't do this, I'm going to have to tell Mom about your Vegas trips." My hands went numb. Mitchell's voice was careful. Under Colorado law, a UTMA custodian has a fiduciary duty to use assets solely for the benefit of the minor. What your father did isn't just unfair, Jade. It's illegal. And based on this correspondence, it appears your brother coerced him using some kind of leverage. I stared at that email for a long time. "Can I get it back?" I finally asked. Mitchell was honest. "You can file suit. But litigation takes time and money. And your father would need to have assets to recover. Given what you've told me about Ryan's spending, those funds may already be gone." I sat there in that office, holding $26,800 in checks and proof that my family had not only betrayed me but blackmailed each other in the process. "I'm not going to sue him," I said finally. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "I don't want his money anymore," I said. "I want my own." He nodded slowly, the way someone does when they respect a decision they might not have made themselves. "The statute of limitations on UTMA breach in Colorado is 6 years, he said. "If you change your mind, the door stays open." I took the checks, the patent documents, and the email evidence. I walked to the bus stop in the rain, holding a manila envelope against my chest. $26,800 wasn't $215,000. But it was mine. And it was enough to start. Let me be honest about what the next 2 years looked like. It wasn't a movie montage. It was survival. I used the money strategically. Tuition at Front Range for pre-vet courses, $5,200 for the year. A used but reliable car to replace the dying Civic, $3,800. The rest went into a high-yield savings account that I rationed like water in a desert. The patent royalties came every quarter like clockwork. $4,000. It wasn't much, but it was predictable, and predictability meant I could plan. I graduated Front Range with a 4.0 GPA, top of my class in the veterinary technology program. That earned me a transfer scholarship to Colorado State University for their pre-veterinary track, 70% of tuition covered. I scraped together the rest with the patent money, part-time work at the emergency clinic, and freelance pet sitting that I found through Rover. It was during my second semester at CSU that I met Dr. Sarah Kemper. Dr. Kemper owned Summit Peak's emergency veterinary clinic in Fort Collins, where I'd been working kennel night shifts since I'd moved to town. She was 53, direct in a way that some people found abrasive and I found refreshing, and she had a reputation for being the best emergency surgeon in northern Colorado. One night, we had a dog come in, a German Shepherd hit by a car, internal bleeding, owner sobbing in the waiting room saying they couldn't afford the $8,000 surgery. Dr. Kemper was scrubbed in, prepping, when she looked at me and said, "You're pre-vet, right?" "Yes, ma'am." "Scrub in." "You're observing." I assisted on that surgery for 4 hours. I didn't just watch, I retracted, I suctioned, I handed instruments. Afterward, while we were cleaning up, Dr. Kemper looked at me and said, "Who trained you?" "No one. I've just been watching." She almost smiled. "You've got hands. That's not something you can teach." "How much longer until vet school?" 2 years if everything goes perfectly. "Come work for me full-time. Days, not nights. I'll pay you $18 an hour, and you can shadow every surgery. Consider it a paid internship." I said yes before she finished the sentence. And on the other side of the state, Ryan was learning a very different lesson about potential. I wasn't checking his social media anymore. But Chloe, my roommate, followed some mutual acquaintance, and things filtered through. Ryan had lost everything in crypto. The entire $215,000, gone in 18 months. He'd tried to trade his way out of the hole and dug it deeper. Then he'd started gambling, sports betting, poker, anything that promised quick returns. By the time he was 28, he'd racked up $73,000 in credit card debt and moved back home to Boulder. My father, meanwhile, had refinanced the house and pulled another $35,000 from his retirement to cover Ryan's debts. My mother had taken a job as a cashier at King Soopers, her first job in 23 years, because Robert's pharmaceutical sales commissions were declining and they needed the income. According to Aunt Sarah, the only family member still speaking to me, my father told people, "Ryan's regrouping. The market will turn around." He never mentioned me. Not once. But I heard something else through Aunt Sarah that made my blood run cold. She called me one night, voice shaking. "Jade, I need to tell you something. I don't know if it matters now, but, your grandfather's death. The Parkinson's complications everyone talked about? Yeah? Your uncle found something in Grandpa's medical records. He'd been on a new medication trial. Experimental. Approved by the family. Except, nobody asked you or your mom. Robert signed the consent forms. He was listed as medical proxy." My hands went numb. The medication trial was run by the same pharmaceutical company Robert works for. He got a $15,000 bonus for enrolling a family member. Jade, your grandfather died 3 weeks after starting that trial. The FDA investigation found 12 other deaths linked to it. The drug was pulled. I couldn't breathe. My father killed Grandpa for $15,000? I don't know if the drug killed him, honey. But Robert didn't tell anyone about the risks. And he took the money. I hung up the phone and sat in my apartment for 2 hours, staring at Grandpa's stethoscope in the wooden box. If this story is hitting close to home, if you've ever had family betray you in ways you couldn't imagine, please subscribe to this channel. You need to hear what happened next. Because everything was about to change. Now let me continue. I need to pause here and tell you something that happened at the end of year 3 that I've never told anyone except Dr. Kemper. I was sitting in my car outside the clinic after a double shift, exhausted, scrolling through my phone, when I saw a news article. Local pharmaceutical rep under investigation for trial fraud. The article didn't name my father specifically, but it detailed how several reps at his company had been falsifying consent forms and enrolling vulnerable patients in high-risk drug trials without proper disclosure. 3 reps had been terminated. 2 were facing criminal charges. Robert Morrison's name wasn't in the article, but Aunt Sarah confirmed it 2 days later. He'd been fired. Quietly. No charges filed, but his career was over. The same week, Dr. Kemper sat me down in her office after everyone had gone home. "Jade, I'm going to be direct because I don't know how else to do this. I'm selling the practice. I'm 60 next year, and I'm tired. But I'm not selling to a corporate group. I want to sell to someone who'll keep it what it is, a place where we do the medicine right, even when it's hard." She paused. "I want to sell it to you." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. "Dr. Kemper, I'm 21 years old, I'm not even in vet school yet, and I have maybe $30,000 to my name. I can't buy a veterinary clinic. You're not buying it alone. I've already talked to 2 other vets on staff. We'll form a partnership. You'll own 51%, I'll retain 25%, and Dr. Patel will take 24%. I'll stay on for 3 years as a consultant while you finish vet school remotely through distance learning programs. Colorado State has one. You can do clinics here." She slid a folder across the desk. "This is the business plan. Read it. Think about it. But Jade, if you say yes, you'll own this place before you're 23. I read that business plan 4 times that night. Then I called Mitchell Torres. "I need to take out a business loan," I said. "And I need you to tell me if I'm insane." Mitchell helped me structure the deal. Between the patent royalties, my savings, and a small business loan backed by the patent assets as collateral, I had enough for the down payment. The rest would be paid over 10 years from clinic profits. I signed the partnership agreement on my 22nd birthday. Summit Peak's emergency veterinary clinic became Morrison and Kemper Veterinary Partners 6 months later. The day I saw my name on that sign, I stood in the parking lot for 10 full minutes, crying. Not because I was proud. Because I finally believed it was real. Over the next 2 years, we expanded. We hired 4 more vets, doubled our support staff, added a second surgery suite, and opened a satellite clinic in Loveland. Our revenue tripled. We became the highest-rated emergency vet clinic in northern Colorado. I finished my DVM through Colorado State's distance program, doing my clinical rotations at my own clinic under Dr. Kemper's supervision. I graduated debt-free because the business paid for it. By the time I was 24, Morrison and Kemper had 42 employees, 2 locations, and a wait list for new patients. That's when the Denver Post came calling. They were running a feature series, Colorado's 30 Under 30 Young Business Leaders Reshaping the State. I'd been nominated by someone, I never found out who. The article ran in March, full-page spread, photo of me in my white coat with a golden retriever patient, and a quote that I still remember word for word. Dr. Jade Morrison built her veterinary empire from patent royalties left by her grandfather and a refusal to accept anyone else's definition of her worth. The article went online on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, it had been shared 14,000 times. By Tuesday evening, someone in Boulder had sent it to my father. I know what happened next because Aunt Sarah told me, piece by piece, over the following weeks. Robert Morrison opened the article on his phone at the kitchen table. He read it in silence. Ryan was upstairs, unemployed, living in his childhood bedroom at 30 years old, trying to figure out how to file for bankruptcy. Robert didn't say he was proud. He didn't call to congratulate me. He said to Karen, who was washing dishes, "She got lucky. Veterinary medicine is a bubble. It won't last." But Karen, for the first time in 29 years, didn't nod along. "Robert," she said quietly, "she built that without a penny from us." He didn't respond. He set his phone down and left the kitchen. Ryan saw the article that night. He read it twice. Then he came downstairs and said, "Maybe we should visit her. Maybe she can help." That's when I knew they were coming. They didn't call first. No warning. Just showed up on a Thursday morning in early April. I was in surgery when Janet, our front desk coordinator, buzzed the intercom. "Dr. Morrison, there are 3 people in the waiting room. They say they're family. They don't have an appointment." I was closing an abdominal incision on a Labrador who'd eaten a corn cob. My hands didn't shake, but something in my chest went very still. "Tell them I'll be out in 15 minutes. I finished the surgery, scrubbed out, and walked to the front desk. Through the glass doors of the waiting room, I could see them. Robert, wearing the same navy suit, even older now, fraying at the cuffs. Ryan, in wrinkled jeans and a hoodie, looking at his phone. And Karen, clutching her purse with both hands, eyes already red. If you've ever had the people who destroyed you show up asking for help, hit that like button. Drop boundaries in the comments if you think I should have turned them away. Because what I did next, well, you're going to have to stick around to find out. Here's what I did. I made them wait. Not to be petty. Because I had 2 more surgeries scheduled, a puppy with parvo that needed an 4-line placed, and 3 post-op patients that needed monitoring. I had a clinic to run, and my patients mattered more than my father's ego. They sat in that waiting room for 3 hours. At 1 p.m., I finally walked out, still in my scrubs, stethoscope around my neck, and said, "I have 20 minutes. Follow me." I led them to my office. Not a conference room. My office. Corner space, windows overlooking the mountains, framed diplomas on the wall, my DVM, my business license, a photo of me with Dr. Kemper at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. On my desk, Grandpa's stethoscope in a glass case. They sat. Robert took the chair across from my desk out of habit. Karen sat by the door. Ryan stood, looking around like he was pricing real estate. I sat behind my desk, folded my hands, and waited. Robert spoke first. "You've done well for yourself, Jade." He said it like he was granting me permission. "Thank you," I said. Flat. Professional. "What can I help you with today?" "We're family," he said, leaning forward. "We wanted to reconnect. It's been too long." Reconnect. The word people use when they need something but don't want to say it yet. "I appreciate you coming," I said. "Are you here as clients? Because if one of your pets needs emergency care, you'll need to check in at the front desk. We're booked today, but I can refer you to Jade." Ryan cut me off. "Come on. Don't do this. We're here because, look, I'm in a tough spot. I've got some debts. Credit cards, mostly. About $73,000. If you could just help me out, like a loan or..." "No." The word landed like a scalpel. "Jade, please." His voice cracked. "We're blood. Blood didn't stop you from taking $215,000 that had my name on it," I said. "Why should it make me give you mine?" Robert's face flushed. "That money was a family decision. I did what I thought was right at the time. You did what Ryan blackmailed you into doing." The room went silent. "I have the emails," I continued. Ryan threatening to tell Mom about your gambling trips. You transferring my fund the next week. That's not a family decision, Dad. That's extortion and theft. Karen's head snapped toward Robert. What gambling trips? Robert didn't answer. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out the folder. Mitchell Torres had prepared it years ago. Everything documented. The UTMA transfer. The email chain. The pharmaceutical trial consent forms with Robert's forged signatures. I placed one document on the desk. The consent form for Grandpa's drug trial. The one Robert had signed without telling anyone. The one that killed 12 people. You enrolled Grandpa in a drug trial for a $15,000 kickback, I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. The drug killed him. The FDA investigation found 12 deaths, including his. You knew the risks, and you didn't tell him. You didn't tell any of us. Karen made a sound. Not a word. A sob that came from somewhere so deep it didn't have language yet. Robert's face went white. That's not, I didn't, the trial was approved, it was. It was fraud, I said. And you got fired for it. Quietly. No charges filed, but you know what you did. So does the company. So do I. Ryan was staring at our father like he was seeing him for the first time. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing up. You're not getting money from me. Not a loan. Not a gift. Nothing. If you need help, Ryan, there's a bankruptcy attorney I can refer you to. Mom, if you want to talk, separately, not with him, my number hasn't changed. I looked at Robert. But you? You stole my future, you killed my grandfather for $15,000, and you came here thinking I owed you something. You need to leave. Jade, he started. I said leave. Janet appeared in the doorway. She'd been listening. Dr. Morrison, your 1:30 is here. Thank you, Janet. Please show these visitors out. Robert stood slowly, his hands shaking, his face the color of old paper. He looked around the office, the diplomas, the awards, the framed photo of me shaking hands with the governor at a small business recognition ceremony. He'd come here expecting to find a daughter who needed him. He found a doctor who'd buried him. Ryan walked out first, head down. Karen stood but didn't move toward the door. She looked at me, really looked at me, and whispered, I'm sorry. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't fix this, Mom. Only you can fix this. She nodded, crying, and walked out. Robert was the last to leave. He stopped in the doorway, turned back, and said, You could have been nothing. I know, I said. That's what you wanted. But Grandpa knew better. The door closed. I sat at my desk for a long time after they left, staring at Grandpa's stethoscope. Then I picked up my phone and called Mitchell Torres. Mitchell, I need you to file something for me. What kind of something? A lawsuit. UTMA breach, fraud, wrongful death claim related to the drug trial. All of it. I want every document, every email, every piece of evidence on the record. Jade, I thought you didn't want. I changed my mind. He came here. He looked at everything I built and said I could have been nothing. I'm done letting him rewrite history. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Then, I'll start the paperwork. The lawsuit took 18 months. During that time, a few things happened. First, Karen filed for divorce. She moved into a small apartment in Louisville, started taking night classes for a teaching credential, the one she'd given up 30 years ago. She called me once a month. We didn't talk much, but she was trying. That mattered. Second, Ryan filed for bankruptcy. All $73,000 of debt was discharged. He moved to Grand Junction, got a job as an assistant manager at an auto parts store, and stopped posting on Instagram. Third, Robert fought the lawsuit for 14 months before his lawyer told him he had no chance of winning. He settled out of court for $185,000, less than the original $215,000, but enough. He had to sell the Boulder house to pay it. I didn't keep the money. I donated it to Colorado State University's Veterinary Scholarship Fund in my grandfather's name. Every year, it funds a full-ride scholarship for one student who shows exceptional promise in veterinary medicine despite financial hardship. The first recipient was a kid from Pueblo whose father told her she should become a dental hygienist. That brings me to today. I'm 24 years old. Morrison and Kemper Veterinary Partners now has 3 locations, 60 employees, and annual revenue of $4.2 million. I'm on the board of the Colorado Veterinary Medical Association, and I just signed a contract to teach a course on emergency medicine at Colorado State. My mother came to the clinic last week. She brought me a framed photo, Grandpa and me in his lab when I was 8, looking through a microscope. She said she'd found it in a box after the house sold. He believed in you before anyone else did, she said. I know, I said. And that's why I made it. Robert lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in Thornton. He doesn't work. His pharmaceutical career is over. Ryan visits him once a month, I'm told. I don't know if they talk about me. I don't care. People ask if I'm angry. I was. For a long time, anger was the engine that drove me out of bed at 4 a.m. for kennel shifts and kept me studying until midnight after 12-hour days. But anger has a shelf life. At some point, it stops being fuel and starts being weight. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. There's a difference. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I built a good life, and I built it with my eyes open. I tell it because right now, somewhere, someone is sitting at a kitchen table being told they're not good enough, smart enough, or worth the investment. Someone's father is stealing their future and calling it a family decision. Someone's mother is choosing silence over her own child. And the person at that table is starting to believe maybe they're right. Don't believe them. My father took $215,000 from me and told me I'd amount to nothing. He was wrong about the money, and he was wrong about me. He died wrong about both, and he'll die knowing it. The best revenge isn't loud. It's not public humiliation or legal victories, though those are satisfying. The best revenge is building a life so undeniable that the people who bet against you can't ignore it, can't explain it away, and can't claim credit for it. I own 3 veterinary clinics. I've saved hundreds of animals. I've trained dozens of vets and techs. I've built something that will outlast my father's memory of me. And I did it all without a single dollar of his money. If you're the one they counted out, the one they overlooked, underfunded, underestimated, this is for you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their money. You don't even need their apology. You just need to decide you're worth betting on. Because you are. 3 weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address, handwritten on lined notebook paper. It was from Ryan. Jade. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't know if I'd forgive me. But I need you to know I see what I did. I see who I was. And I'm trying to be different. I'm working at AutoZone in Grand Junction. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I'm paying my bills. I'm sober. I'm going to meetings. I'm doing the things I should have been doing 10 years ago. Dad calls sometimes. I don't pick up much anymore. He wants to talk about the lawsuit, about how you ruined the family. I told him last week, Jade didn't ruin anything. We did. He hung up on me. I don't know if you'll ever want to talk to me. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But if you do, I'm here. And I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Ryan. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer next to Grandpa's stethoscope and the patent documents. I haven't written back yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Forgiveness isn't a switch, it's a door. And I'm not ready to open it. But I didn't throw the letter away. That's new. Let me tell you what I've learned in the 5 years since I walked out of that house in Boulder. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. Dr. Kemper showed up. Mitchell Torres showed up. Grandpa showed up before he died by planning for a future he'd never see. Those are my people. Not the ones who shared my DNA but didn't share my dreams. I've learned that revenge is overrated. The lawsuit? It was necessary for legal closure, but it didn't make me feel better. What made me feel better was the morning I walked into my clinic and saw my name on the wall, knowing I'd put it there myself. I've learned that forgiveness is complicated. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive my father. I don't know if I need to. What I know is that I don't think about him anymore. He doesn't occupy space in my head, and that's its own kind of freedom. I've learned that mothers are complicated too. Karen wasn't strong enough to stand up for me when I needed her, but she's trying now. She's rebuilding her life at 54, and that takes courage. I respect that, even if I can't forget what came before. And I've learned that you can't wait for someone else to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Grandpa believed in me, yes. But the moment everything changed wasn't when I got his trust money or his patents. It was the moment I decided I was worth fighting for, even if nobody else thought so. If I could go back and tell 18-year-old Jade anything, it would be this: the pain you're feeling right now is real, and it matters. Don't let anyone minimize it. But don't let it define you either. Use it as evidence that you can survive hard things. And then go build something beautiful out of the wreckage. Today, I'm 24 years old. I have 3 veterinary clinics, a staff that feels like family, and a life that I chose. I'm not rich, small business owners rarely are, but I'm free. And freedom, I've learned, is worth more than any college fund. My father told me I'd be nothing. I proved him wrong by becoming everything he said I couldn't be. And I did it without him. That's the part that matters most. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been the one your family bet against, I need you to do 3 things. First, hit that subscribe button. I share stories like this every week, real stories about people who refused to accept someone else's limitations. Second, smash that like button if you think Jade made the right call. Drop boundaries in the comments if you would have done the same thing, or tell me your story. I read every single comment, and your story might help someone who's watching this right now deciding whether to stay or leave. Third, share this video. Send it to someone who needs to hear that they're worth more than what their family says they are. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.